Half moon? More like half a Blu-ray. Half Moon, released in 2010, and is directed by Jason Toller, who made his directorial debut with this film. And he also wrote the damn thing, so he's the person to blame for this one. And this movie is starring Merrick Matusik, Tori D. Sutton, Nikki Hunter, and introducing in an actual acting performance, adult film star Tori Black. And what was the reason why I purchased this DVD from that resale shop many, many years ago? Well, there you go. When down-on-her-luck prostitute Rose goes to a hotel to meet a man who seems like the perfect guy, things soon change and she suspects he could be a killer, or worse, a werewolf. Now this is the definition of independent film, and from what I've learned over the last couple of years, especially in being introduced to the world of like straight-up independent film, very small budget, like under $1,000 type budget, I've learned to kind of relax and just kind of sit back and just see what type of stories we're trying to tell and see if there's any fun nuances that you can tell from the director, from the cinematographer, hell, even from the actors. Because that's what independent film is. It's independent from any big head studios who come in and they cut everything and they overshadow everything. This is purely from the artist's viewpoint, and a lot of times when it comes to independent film, this is an artist who's developing their craft and developing their storytelling devices. So now I go in with a lot of leniency. That being said, there's a lot to be desired with this film. First, God, where to begin? If you dive into the aspects of the story, the core of this story, on paper, it sounds like a really good idea. This late-night worker who doesn't like her pimp is trying to find a way out and is trying to find an escape from the world that she's living, finds this man who has a lot of money, has one really nice night with him, but then she suspects him of being a serial killer, ties him up, and it turns out that no, he's not actually a serial killer. All the medicines, the guns, the drugs, everything in his bag were for him because he's a werewolf. That sounds good on paper. Execution-wise with this movie was handled very poorly. First off, for a movie about a werewolf, even implied in the title, in the plot synopsis, we get maybe 30 seconds of werewolf footage, or just werewolf happenings. It's not like we see people die early on. Well, I guess there was a prostitute in the very first clip for like the first minute, but I mean, we never see anything come from that at all after that. The rest of the time is just talking and conversations between these two people where it's obvious they are reciting lines from a script. That's all it is. This movie's an hour and 20, and an hour and 19 minutes is all just a conversation between these two people. And then we see a little bit of a werewolf at the end that looks pretty freaking ridiculous, and I'm like, why I wasted my freaking time with this movie? And it's not like the transformation scene was worth it. The transformation scene is abysmal. It's insulting to what special effects are nowadays. When you watch this transformation, it reminded me of, like, the old Super Nintendo video game, just any game that you play on there, and the graphics that you see. Hell, even those graphics back in the 90s, back in the 80s with Super Nintendo were better than what we saw here with this transformation. I usually don't like showing clips from the movie while I review it, but I can't help but not do that here. So this is the transformation into the werewolf scene. This is what we've been building up for the entire time, the whole hour and 20 minutes. Here it is. That's what we got. That's the best they could do. And I know it's independent film, and I know they don't have a huge budget. I get that. But that's the end product that you were shooting for. Wow! I don't know, should we play it again? I think we should play it again, just to make me laugh more. And there it is. Oh, God. The first time watching it, I was laughing. I was, like, silently screaming inside of myself because I was angry. It was hilarious, and I was so happy about it. I think my outward reaction was just, oh no. Who told this director that this was approved and this was a good idea? Oh boy. It's a visual effect. It's a moment in the film that really made me want to dive in to see how this film came about, who approved this thing. And on the DVD, there is a really long interview with the director, and he's talking about his process in creating the script. He has this huge script in his hand, and he's waving it around, and it's one of the most bullshittest interviews I have ever heard in my life. He is praising everyone. He is praising every performance, everyone who worked on the film. He even talked about how the heads of his studio that he's with and the higher-ups were saying, like, hey, we don't want you to do this. This needs refinement. This needs work. But he was like, no, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna shoot it in 5 days and there. Word of advice, sir, I would have taken their suggestion, because this film needed a lot of work. The script needed a lot of work. The performances needed a lot of work. The cinematography, the camera angle choices were very uninspiring. But yet here he is in that interview talking about how great people did, how great performances were. Yes, I hired Tori Black because she's the only one who really understood where this woman was coming from, because she's a woman from the streets and she knows what it's like to be involved with the pimp. She's the only one who got that. Right. Sure, that's the only reason why you cast her. It probably had nothing to do that there is a softcore porn scene in this film and you wanted an actual adult actress to be in your movie so that you could see her live and in person and shoot it. That's not the reason. Okay. He's even talking about the actress who played the dead girl in the very first minute of the film, where all she is just laying there with her boobs out, and the camera just slowly zooms out from a close-up on her boobs. And he was like, oh, she did an amazing performance. She was great. And what brain were you using that day? In case you couldn't tell, I think this movie is almost complete garbage. Maybe just a sliver of hope is somewhere in this movie. I couldn't pinpoint it or tell you what that sliver of hope is, but I'm sure it's there. The acting performances, I think, are to be expected with the quality of actors that we got for this independent film. Really, though, I'm blaming the director for the poor directing choices being presented to these actors. Tori Black sometimes has this gangster accent that she pulls out and she's throwing, and she's constantly using the gun, pointing it at him when he's tied up in the chair. Like, man, you don't know nothing, man, you know nothing! And there's no levels to her emotions at all. It's just all right up here, and everything is just so angry and annoyed, which, as a director myself and as a master of theater arts from grad school, anger and annoyance are two very easy emotions to choose when you are reading a script for the first time. If you're reading lines of dialogue and there's some type of conflict, it's very easy to deliver all of your lines very annoyed, very big, and I'm very angry at you. But there are also several other outward emotions that you can choose when you're performing a character's scene where that character is angry or annoyed. You don't always have to be, and I'm not going to be mean and say, hey, stick to your day job, because that's not helpful to anyone. Really, I blame the director here. This whole vision, this whole overall concept of this movie is shit, and it's all the director's fault. For a movie that's trying to build suspense and build tension and build up horror, we don't get that at all. What we get are a really long conversation between two people talking about their very uninteresting and sad lives, almost playing on the aspect of, hey, we know what werewolves are, and this guy is not going to tell you exactly what he is, but he's going to allude to, you know, biting people and the moon and this person who's injecting him in silver. He's not really going to come out and say, hey, I'm a werewolf and blah blah blah. There is so much telling in this movie, and clearly not enough showing. And what we show in the movie with the whole thing ends up looking like this. I had to throw it in there for a third time, because comedy works in threes. I'm gonna give Half Moon half a Blu-ray. No! No! Chalk that one up to the top 10 worst films I reviewed this year. Don't know where it's gonna fall on the list, but I can't see it not being on it. Alright everyone, now comes my favorite part of my videos, where I randomly select which movie I'm gonna be watching next, so let's take a look. I almost want to show that clip again. A Dangerous Method. This is the Freud movie, right? With Keira Knightley and Michael Fassbender, and I forget who the third person is. But it's a drama. And if it's Freud, they're talking about emotional problems and how it all leads back to sex and how you find your parents desirable or something like that. I don't know what Freud taught. It's been so long. I've never watched this movie before, but I do own a digital copy of it, so we'll check it out next time. If any of you have recommendations of films that you want me to review on here, you can make a PayPal donation on the main page of my YouTube channel. Any size donation will do. Just attach your movie recommendation with your donation, and if I have access to it, I will watch it, review it, give you a shout out on the channel, and get my review of it published as quickly as I possibly can. So guys, have you seen Half Moon? Have you even heard of this thing? How many of you, after watching this review, went out of your way? I'm sure you could find it free online somewhere. I don't know, on YouTube or any backdoor website. You could probably see it there. How many of you actually went out of your way to track down this movie and watched it? And how right was I about my assessment? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell so you'll know the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time with my review of A Dangerous Method. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.